Welcome to the Turnpike Sports Spotlight. Dave Weishottle with you. One of the hottest topics in gaming today is esports. It seems like every week there's a big deal being made in the esports world. And one of the best conferences you can attend if you're interested in esports is the Casino Esport Conference. Ari Fox is the creator of the Casino Esport Conference, which is being held in Atlantic City on November 6th and 7th at Resorts Casino. He's also the creator of a new organization called the Gambling Esports and Technology Association. And to tell us all about the conference at Resorts and the Gambling Esports and Technology Association, we have Ari Fox on the line. Ari, welcome back to the show.
Oh, always glad to be back, David. Thank you so much for having me. It's exciting with all the new things coming out. We're really excited to start launching this new organization.
That's great. Well, give us an overall sense of the state of esports. You know, I read the gaming news every week, and it seems like there's a big deal being made regarding esports. And I know during the pandemic, a lot of people were starting to play esports, and, really it was being televised. I'm just curious, what is the state of esports right now? Is it growing at the rate it had in the past? Because, like I said, I'm reading the news, and some of these deals are incredible.
Yeah, so I'll give you a quick synopsis and an overview. There was a gold rush, I have to admit, or a bubble that built, and it popped. Let's be completely honest. I mean, there's a lot of orgs, and when they call orgs, it's short for organizations that are sort of like you would use this as an equivalent to like the New York Yankees or something like that. So there have been a lot of professional organizations, businesses and companies that have promoted their esports teams and been part of leagues like the Overwatch League for Blizzard or the League of Legends or Rocket League. And there was a pro circuit that was really trying to sort of force the industry into that direction, because the people investing in that style of esports were the same people or similar people that had made a lot of money in professional sports. Guys like Mark Cuban, people like Robert Kraft, from the New England Patriots, Andy Miller from he's part owner of the basketball team, the Sacramento Kings. So I think it's the Sacramento Kings. Is that correct? Yeah. I'm not sure. So there was a lot of this, we will build it and they shall come, or, it's the field of dreams, so to speak. And they didn't come because I think there's like in every single industry, and they're beginning to understand it a little better, but every single industry, and we talk about the entertainment industry, the sports industry, and also the gambling industry, they saw this huge amount of viewers that viewed people playing video games or actual gamers just gaming, that there's that number that runs around the 3 billion gamers worldwide, etc. And it was like, this is a group of people that we could tap into and make money here. Because in the world of technology today, in the world of the internet today, when you have numbers, your business is worth a lot. Data is always the key to everything. For example, Facebook wouldn't be Facebook if it didn't have all the users.
Sure.
And so what I'm trying to point out to you is in the marketplace, on the stock market, or as investors go, the power is the people. And all of these industries, the sports industry, the casino industry, the Hollywood industry, they see the numbers, and those numbers mean dollar signs. So it didn't formulate, though, because the three industries I just mentioned in particular, and then there's other industries as well, airside, they were not successful. And there's a lot of reasons for that. And that's why the bubble popped, so to speak. And we got a lot of orgs that folded. But it's not going anywhere. In other words, esports is not going anywhere.
Sure.
It's metamorphosizing into a different type of offering. And I think that these industries are beginning to learn that, as what I've said in the past, is that the gamer isn't the same as someone who is a avid fan of baseball or an avid fan of football. These types of fans are much more sort of looking at the professional levels as, that's something I couldn't do because I don't have the athletic ability. I wasn't born with this natural ability to play a game like football or basketball or baseball. But in the esports world, video gaming world, there is opportunity for someone who is not gifted generally to reach the ranks of pro levels. I mean, it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of understanding the game and total dedication. But there is a disconnect between how do you connect with fans that are just as good as the pros, or can be a pro, like it's open to everyone. So the fan of esports is, I can watch people play the game, but then I could see someone do that move and learn it myself. And it's not like trying to hit a baseball coming at you like at 95 miles an hour.
Sure. Now, we're going to get to the Casino Esport Conference being held in Atlantic City on November 6th and 7th in a couple of minutes. But I first want to ask you about the Gambling, Esports, and Technology Association. What is that, and when did you form that organization?
So that organization has been something that had been brewing for the last 4 or 5 years. It was something that my brother and I discussed. And, as I said, you work with your brother. And, there is back in the day, and we mentioned this earlier about, the store Two Guys. I'm dating myself, but I have to say that I was very, very little when Two Guys was around.
I remember it well. So
back in the day, you could do and create a big business with Two Guys. But in our world that we have today, you need a lot more voices. And we were just talking about the value proposition of having more people involved in what you're doing than you just doing it yourselves.
Sure.
And that's exactly where the Get a Global idea came from. It's a political organization, very similar, or we'd like to formulate it similar to what we have today, which is the AGA, which is the American Gambling Association. And, one day, hopefully we have an office in Washington, D.C., that it becomes big enough. But the idea behind it is that you understand we started the CEC 8 years ago. It is esports oriented at its core, but at the end of the day, what we're trying to do is evolve the gambling industry. And I have to say, not to toot my own horn, but the gambling industry is very lucky to have me and my brother, so vested and passionate about changing an industry for the better, for the future.
Oh, and by the way, thank you for the pin that you gave me at the SBC Summit North America in the Meadowlands a couple of weeks ago. I have it right in front of me too, and I'm looking at it right now. And I'm very curious. What impact do you hope that this organization will have on the esports world?
Well, Dave, it's like change is difficult.
Yep.
And it's difficult for anybody, even as an individual. So on a business level, there's always people are very nervous because when you talk about money, that's like the biggest anxiety I think everybody has on the planet. But where we go with this is that you take the Get a Global idea, and what you're doing is you're saying to the people that join Get a Global that we will hold your hand. We will point you in the right direction. So this won't be painful. So you'll be safe from, in moving in this direction. You'll be guided in moving in this direction. You'll have insight and influence from state-run agencies and regulatory agencies, people in the video gaming space, and we're not talking about generally the main publishers, like Blizzard and Blizzard Activision or Valve or Riot. These are companies that have been offered. Trust me, I've reached out many times to them and said, hey, come to the CEC and, speak about how we can integrate with your product, with your ideas. And, they give it to their PR person and it's like, I don't want anything to do with gambling. So they run in the opposite direction. So it's like dealing with issues like loot boxes that I don't know if you've read recently about loot boxes and skins and stuff that's going on in Europe. Now they actually are wondering, hey, is this is gambling? Loot boxes are gambling. And so it's been more and more proven that this is where it's going and what this is. So Geta Global would be one of these organizations that brings in that controversial topic and then can sort of lay it out for everybody so we can all figure out, hey, well, if this is gambling, then let's legalize it. Let's regulate it. And that's open. That's an open invitation to, not the mainstream publishers, but other indie game developers or people who make video games that can say, okay, well, you can have a really cool story in your video game, just like the game Among Us, which is, I don't know, there's a movie, they started the television show on HBO called Among Us, and that was all based on a video game. Yeah. So if you could take the game Among Us, and you are now, so remember, this is not Among Us is not a first-person shooter game. You're not going up against somebody else. It is an exploratory game. What does that mean? So that means that, you're traveling across the country, just like in the show, and, you're attacked by zombies. But the action stops. Now you have 3 loot boxes in front of you. You have to choose which loot box would be best to save you, from that zombie attack. What weapon would you get from that zombie attack? So it stops. You have these 3 loot boxes in front of you. In order for you to continue, you have to put more money into the machine or into the game. It could be a mobile game. It could be I'm using this as an example, but you're playing against the computer. But it's still you're into the game itself. You're playing the game itself. And so how does the casino make money, or the online casinos make money? Very simply. If I wager that I'm going to pick box number 2 as a loot box, it's the one in the middle. Obviously, I put in more money because it stopped the action. But I want to continue because I want to win the game. So that's the endorphin for a gamer. The endorphins that are produced when someone of a Gen X or a boomer plays a slot machine. It's I can win the whole jackpot. In this case, it's always about how can I continue the game? How can I move forward with the game? So now the action stopped. You want to continue. You want to get across the country. You're being attacked by zombies. It stops. You have to wager on which loot box is going to. It's a microtransaction. Yeah. And you could do this throughout the game. And then this is how the casinos are making money now, because now they're in partnership with the game developer, just like as if they were in partnership with a company like IGT or Aristocrat that puts a slot machine on their floor, or an online casino like Virgin Casino or Triple Eight or any of these other businesses. And now you have this opportunity to make money by allowing the gamer to continue in the game, but you're taking these small microtransactions. Where does that put the casinos in? Very powerful position. Because now you've got gamers, you got 3 billion of these people worldwide playing video games.
Well, let me ask you something about the betting and gambling on esports. And I know a lot of states are in the process of trying to figure out rules and regulation when it comes to allowing betting or gambling on esports. Now, you keep a pretty close eye on the developments when it comes to what legislators are talking about when they're trying to figure out how to implement betting on esports. Is there one state that really understands the esports business? Is there a group of legislators where you can point to and say, those lawmakers in this state really get it and really understand esports and how to implement regulations so people can bet on it or gamble on it? Because from my view, it kind of looks like a lot of lawmakers are really struggling with this idea.
I don't know if it's the lawmakers that are struggling with the idea, because you have to put it into perspective. What are the roles of the lawmaker? The lawmaker is to make sure that the wagers and protecting the consumer, that the wager is a legal waged bet. on whatever it is. It could be an in-game wager, or it could be, what they call the overall outcome of a match between, two professional esports teams on any game. I think what the disconnect between what we have is, there is, for example, if I go in to a sports book in Atlantic City or wherever, and I sit down, okay, now as an avid sports fan, I can bet on any of the games. That could be basketball, baseball, whatever. So there's a slew of different games, obviously. Now, I could also, what else do I have there as an amenities? I have food and beverage, the hotels. If I'm with someone else and they're not into sports, they can go off and play, a slot machine or a card game or something of that nature. So I think the disconnect is and why people aren't going to the brick and mortar to wager on an esport match is because you can't do that. You can't expect gamers to come out to a brick and mortar. None of them like to even be around people. Forget about, I mean, that's a generalization, obviously, but the truth of it is that anyone who's into esports, now you have to also remember there's 3 billion gamers worldwide. CSGO in Europe is massive, but it's all online wagering. It's all done on the internet, and it's all done on Web3 basis. What I mean by that is that they're already advanced to a point where they're wagering with crypto coin or wagering on a blockchain. And so these are the things that we would sort of implement and make and teach and get a global, because we want to do webinars every month and have people that are experts in these fields discuss these things. And that's part of being a member of Get a Global.
Let me ask you something about the casinos and the sports books. Is there something that you see they could be doing more for the esports community? Look, I've talked to a lot of casinos, and what they have all told me is that their goal is to attract a younger clientele. And it seems to me that esports provides them that audience that they want to attract. However, from my perspective anyway, it looks like casinos are very slow to act when it comes to esports. What do you think casinos should be doing with esports? And do you think esports will provide them with that younger customer base that they are looking for? And should they meld their marketing plans to attract esport players?
Yes, absolutely. Although what's the disconnect there? You see a disconnect. Like you said, I do too. I think that the disconnect is they don't understand the generation that they're or that they could cater to. Now there's steps, slow steps that they can take, easy steps that they can take to entertain or starting, to get into it. And a lot of casinos across the country in the United States have been doing a lot of experimental projects, mainly, I would say, Native America. The Native American casinos are doing that. Yeah. In California, in Agua Caliente, they do a weekly Super Smash Brother tournament and what they call the fighting community. It's like Street Fighter. You have the two guys and they fight each other. It's like boxing matches, but it's, and they have tournaments every week, and they've been building a bigger and bigger and bigger following. And it's just, they take a bar. It's called their 360 bar, which is their sports book or whatever, or it's a sports bar. Okay. And they do have a sports book someplace else, I think. I'm not sure. But what they do is they don't change anything. They don't build anything new. They utilize their current stuff that they have, big screens and stuff. They have a tournament organizer that comes in. He brings all of the consoles and everything, connects them all, and then has a small little tournament. And people walk out with $400 or $500 as a win, whoever wins the tournament for that night. And they're selling food and beverage, they're entertaining, they're getting these people, and they're all 21 and older, and they're getting them to sign up as players. for their player club thing. So there is that experiment going on. I know that in Oklahoma, they're doing some things where they're having these, they have a small festival. They don't get a lot of people. It's like 200-300 people, but, those areas are not very well populated to start with. But, the casinos themselves have attempted and tried to bring in younger audiences, but their answer is, and I know that Bally's a couple years ago, or was it last summer or the summer before, their answer was to build a beer garden on the boardwalk. And, there's nothing wrong with having a beer garden if you don't have one and you think that that's going to help, find or get you a younger audience. But, I've been on the boardwalk in the summertime in Atlantic City. There's like 4 or 5 other beer gardens.
Yeah.
And I thought that, it's not Bally's. Was it Bally's? I think it may be Bally's. I think it's Bally's. Bally's always had that beach bar.
Yeah. I think they all have a beach bar now. So it's
right. So everybody has a beach bar, and then then it's like, okay, well then let's build a beer garden. I mean, listen, again, if it's nice and you want to have something like that, then all the power to you. Mm-hmm. But I think that money would have been better spent if they looked into a program which they could do all year round, and promote a video gaming tournament on a weekly basis.
Do you think what it would take is one casino to really go all in on esports and show the rest of the casinos that esports is profitable? Look, I mean, you've dealt with casinos, I've dealt with casinos. The gaming floor is holy ground. I mean, you have to demonstrate, if you're going to take this space, you got to be profitable for us. Is that what's going to take, one casino to really take that leap and show other casinos how to do it?
Does it have to be on the floor? No. Absolutely not. If that's their holy ground, then absolutely not. Okay. I was at the East Coast Gaming Congress. Was it 2 years ago, and I was talking to the banquet head for Hard Rock. Okay. At the time, and I asked him. I said, this is great that you guys hosted it this year. He says, yeah, but these rooms stay empty most of the year. Okay. To start with, that's their conference center. These massive exhibit halls that have 18,000 square feet. You could basically play an indoor football game there. Mm-hmm. But they're empty. And why not utilize that space when you have a place like Hard Rock that's so massive? You can't tell me that every single minute of the day, or every day, and every weekend, that your space that is these exhibit halls are full. Mm-hmm. They're not, especially on the weekend, because if it's on a weekend, right?
No one's there.
Right. I mean, because they have if they do have business conferences, obviously it's during the week, mm-hmm. but then the weekend, and these casinos, how it works is that they will then turn the house around, and now they're focusing on the general consumer that's coming in for the weekend to party, have a good time, be by the shore. But are they having anything in the conference centers, in the exhibition halls? Doubtful on the weekend. Mm-hmm. So they're sitting there empty, and they're not doing anything with them. But but yes, the houses are full. I mean, meaning that they've sold all their hotel rooms on a weekend. But you're not doing anything. You could do something even more, especially in the wintertime for Atlantic City and in the fall. And that's a perfect location. And even Vegas is slow in the wintertime.
Oh, absolutely. I mean,
so,
you can get hotel rooms on the boardwalk for $19 a night in Atlantic City. So, they're looking for people to bring in.
Right. So my point is that there's these lulls in the year, during the year, where you could start having it. And then these are this is this is putting your toe in the water. This isn't it's testing it and doing the same thing like Agua Caliente is in Palm Springs. Now their winter season is the summer. So, everybody sort of gets out of town in, Palm Springs because it's so hot. That, but then again, they're inside. They could, the inside, the air conditioning, and, they have people come in. So the point being is that there's ways to do this, and this is why we created Get a Global. It's to bring ideas to the table so that the brick and mortars and the online casinos can develop things in a way that's not as painful, that's not as scary. At the end of the day, I think any casino or online casino should hire me. I'm serious. I mean, I can consult for people. I'm actually doing some stuff like that. I mean, there are people that, they're not exactly sure how to integrate in with this audience.
Sure.
I have it in my brain. Okay. It's all in my head and it's not expensive. Mm-hmm. I would make sure that doesn't happen. Make sure that, we're not looking to, put somebody in a position where, you did something really bad and, now you lost your job because it cost your business too much money. There's ways to do it that is not going to cost the casino a lot of money. And that's where we have to go. You want to test the waters. You want to get this new audience. And I'm talking about these C-list executives that are in the middle that are got the pressure on. Then where are our numbers for this month, for that month, for our food and beverage, for our hotel stay, etc. Where, if you want to bring those numbers up during the low parts of your season in a year on a yearly cycle, whether that's Q2 or Q1 or whatever it is, they should contact me because I can tell them to do this, but in a way that's not going to be painful.
One of the great things you've been doing for the esports industry is holding the Casino Esport Conference, which is in its 8th year right now. And the one in Atlantic City is going to be held on November 6th and 7th at Resorts Casino. For people who aren't familiar with the Casino Esport Conference, tell us something about it, why you started, and what can people expect to experience when they attend?
So that was actually started because it's the educational process. Mm-hmm. We want to help the online casino people, iGaming people, the brick and mortar people, Native America, European casinos. Where and how do we deal with this new generation? That's what the Casino Esport Conference is. It starts with the educational side. Because if you're not educated then and you're walking in blindly, then what do you do? And I would just want to touch on, you went to why you said are the regulators, or what's the most advanced state that's involved in esports. I would say New Jersey is definitely one of those. Mm-hmm. And I don't think I answered that properly, but I think what you do have is there are people that are running esport businesses, wagering businesses, and they don't even understand some of the games that they're taking wagers on. So if you were watching a League of Legends game or a Defense of the Ancients, which is like Dota 2 or Dota games, these are complex games. You have to really be a player of the game to understand it. And so I think that's where you have a problem. There needs to be younger people that are hired by regulatory people, the regulatory people in New Jersey that are gamers, that don't just play one game, but at least understand some of these games. And then and the same goes for the casino side. You can't just hire a gamer that's really good at like Super Smash Brothers, because they're only good at that one game and they only understand that game. They have to be an avid gamer of all games and lover of the video gaming industry. It's a very, I would suggest that somebody do that. They hire someone that's into that.
So who are some of the speakers and topics that's going to be covered at the conference?
So this past year we had Jan Jones Blackhurst was in Las Vegas. She sits on the board for the Esports Entertainment Group, which is still publicly traded on NASDAQ. Mm-hmm. And she was there, and she was the ex-mayor of Vegas. We also had Amon Green, who is the esports coach for the Nebraska University. He was the esports coach for Lakeland University in Wisconsin, but now he's working with Nebraska, which is his alum, where he went to college. And then we'll have other, these are some of the speakers. We plan on having them back, but we also have a very, very important aspect of our conference with responsible gaming. And you have to have responsible gaming if you're talking about integrating and giving an offering to a younger audience because they need, I hate the word, but everyone says it, the authenticity. It has to be there because you have to say to these younger people, you will have fun, but we will make sure you're not damaged. You're not walking away.
Sure.
Those days have to end. Those days have to end. We have to end those days, not just for the esport people that are wagering on esports, but across the board. No one should go to a casino because this is why the casinos and gambling have such a horrible sort of a black eye, so to speak, is there is a stigma today and a good reason for it that if you walk into a casino and you gamble, you're going to lose your mortgage payment for that month.
Yeah.
No one should be in that situation. It's entertainment, and that's where it should stay. That's where it should begin, and that's where it should end. So that's another thing we talk about. So we have guys like Bill Pasquale III, who's very into the responsible gaming. Guys like Bo Gray. And his guys like Charles Oakley from the New York Knicks, all people that are looking and interested and passionate about not just esports, but also the overall gambling industry as a whole.
When reviewing the conference topics, I noticed you had a seminar on iGaming. Here in New Jersey, iGaming is huge, and I know a lot of gambling companies want to make it legal in a lot of other states. But when it comes to iGaming, where do you see esports fitting in? For me, it seems like a natural fit, but I want to get your opinion. When it comes to iGaming and esports, what do you see as the future for both, and how do they fit together?
It's an interesting question. That's a good question. Can you answer how long has iGaming been around?
2013, we went legal in New Jersey here.
And legal in New Jersey, but since its founding, it started in the early 2000s.
Sure, yeah.
So it's been around 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
And I think there's only 4 states in the United States that have iGaming, I think. Mm-hmm. And New Jersey is one of them, obviously.
Yeah.
But
I think there are 6.
Or 6, sorry. There is obviously a natural integration. There has to be. iGaming and online gaming is the way, when it first came and was popular, when it first came out, I remember this, when it first came out in New Jersey, there were, I knew a lot of people at resorts, for example, where we're having our event actually. But they had a room where they would bring some of their people that would come to the brick and mortar and tell them that, hey, you could play online. And then some of the people who I spoke with that were of the high executive levels, I asked them, I said, well, why are you implementing an online casino as part of your offering for the casino? They said, well, we know we're going to get all the young people for this. They already knew. They knew that you could capture the younger market by having the games online. So did it work? Obviously it's working. It did work. I mean, it saved them during the pandemic. That's definitely the case. Could they have done more? And can they do more? Where do you move on from here? And your answer was exactly, it's esports. Now, we talked about earlier about the show Among Us and loot boxes.
Yeah.
Well, there's your answer. So if iGaming or the online casinos actually had not just slot machines and card games, but can you imagine if someone was playing a digital version of like Legends of Catan, which is a card game, but this is a game that you can play maybe on an iGaming platform, or maybe you could play Among Us, that type of game where you definitely are playing a video game, but you're playing it for money. So there's opportunity abounding. I mean, it's endless. Mm-hmm. But the iGaming community, as we know, we just touched on that, is over 20 years old. So they're also slow to come to the table, and they're also slow to test these things out. I mean, I could tell you that there's, when skill gaming came out, obviously They tried it, and a company like Gameco put their games on the floor. The casino's like, oh, yeah, we'll put them on the floor and everyone will play them. You have to market that, too. It's not just, I'm going to throw it out there. And that goes for the online casinos, too. If they start putting on video games that you could play for money, if no one knows that they're there, how are they going to expect to get that customer?
A very interesting seminar you're having on the first day, and it really made me think about something. Here's the tagline for the seminar. Mainstream media claims that the esport bubble has burst. Is this true? What is the future of esports and its relation with gambling? My question to you is, and what stuck out in my mind was mainstream media, that term. I'm wondering, how much does media play in the future of esports? I mean, what can esports do to attract viewers of mainstream media? I mean, is it crucial for the future of esports? Does an ESPN or a Fox Sports have to get involved for esports really to take off?
I don't believe so. Mm-hmm. Absolutely not. In fact, if ESPN or any of those mainstream sports media companies started, and they did do that actually over the pandemic, it's almost a rejection in a lot of ways. It's because from a perspective of a gamer, I don't think they want to be sort of pigeonholed into the same treatment as an actual sports fan of conventional sports. There is the similarities, and there's no doubt about it, but we have different mentality. Mm-hmm. And when you want to pull an esports match into ESPN, or you want to pull an esports match into SNY or any of the mainstream sports media companies, Fox Sports, whatever, it's almost like this isn't for us. This is they don't know what they're doing. It's going to have to happen in from a grassroots level. So esports is really has to. I'm strictly talking about the industry of esports and not how it relates to gambling, but I could get into that. So in regard to that one topic you brought up, it popping, I think there's a massive rejection from the community of video gamers that mainstream media should not be capitalizing or bringing or sort of like utilizing esports in a way that they would make more money. I mean, I think the gamer industry sees them as, you've already made a lot of money, and now you want to take our world and change it into something that you can sort of capitalize on and you can make money. No, this is ours. Mm-hmm. This is our thing, and where it's going to start is at the grassroots, and it's already begun, David. Mm-hmm. It's already begun at colleges across the country. We're seeing more and more people playing esports against other colleges, and like every sport, even the conventional sports,
sure,
it starts in the colleges, it starts in the high schools, and this is where it's going. And New Jersey has an amazing program for scholastic esports programs in high schools and colleges. It does. It's phenomenal, and it is going to keep growing. There's already, obviously, go back to 2013, 2014, there were colleges offering scholarship for esports. So we're in a world where it will happen, but it'll happen in its own right. And honestly, ESPN, Fox Sports, any of these Bally Sports, any of these mainstream media companies, those are your dad's and your granddad's, channels. The younger people will be moving towards mobile. They'll be moving towards their PC, or their laptop. I got to tell you, I have younger kids, and they barely watch television. If they want to watch something, it's always on the laptop.
Well, let me ask you about that. Speaking of the future of esports, where do you see the future of esports in the couple of years? I mean, do you see it in more casinos? Do you see it televised? Do you see it more channels? Will iGaming finally embrace esports and really go all in with esports? What's next for esports?
Well, like, again, when we say esports, I think you're talking specifically about the fanfare of, the two teams playing each other and then people watching and wagering. And that, yes, obviously that's the lowest hanging fruit. And that's what casinos understand, because that's what they've been doing for years when it comes to sports wagering. So yeah, I get that they see that is the lowest hanging fruit, and that's where we enter into the industry. And it's there. People are starting to wager, but it's 0.09%, I think, of wagers on platforms like Bet360 or Pinnacle or some of the sports wagering apps. But it's starting to build. Now, how do we move that in that direction? I think in a lot of ways they are putting the cart before the horse in this instance, because you're putting out the wagering part of it, but you're not really catering to the community. You're saying, I want you to come and wager on esports because we know you like esports, but we're not catering to the overall community. And what do I mean by that? So I mentioned earlier that if you go to a sports book and they go with a bunch of their friends, you have 2 or 3 people that will wager on the basketball game or the football game or the baseball game. But then they have friends that go off and they'll play a card game, or they'll play the slots, or they'll go get something to eat. What is there beyond the actual offering of come and wager on this esports tournament for gamers to do beyond the esports tournament itself? Really nothing. You're not offering them anything. You're not giving them the environment that they feel comfortable in. I would even say that if you were going to do, or if a brick and mortar wanted to really offer esports, start off with a small, tiny little room, like a little tiny bar, like an esports bar, where you have a little tiny arcade and you have some video games that people can play, and a tiny little area, sort of like Chicky and Pete's did this in Tropicana. And you have a little esports book where people can come, and you have a cage and everything, or you have like like a kiosk where you can choose your match in regards to esports and make a wager on an esports match. But you also have other things for the people to do, and it's not a large room. We talk about it, maybe like a small little room somewhere that is separate though from the sports people. That's the key, because they has to be separate from the sports people. It's not sports. I think that's where we find that. Why aren't people actually? You need a safe. They want a safe space, where they can come and they are looked at as the actual attraction. Because when you take esports as a whole, what do you have? You have all these different games, correct?
Yep. You
have games like Smash Brothers, and you have the first-person shooter games, and you have Dota, and you have Call of Duty, and you have CS:GO, and so there are all these different games. Think of all those different games with all their different rules and all their different opportunities and things like that as baseball, as football, so it's their own ecosystem. It's their own thing. Where if you separate the two, here's your conventional sports fans, and they're often there wherever, that's your meat and potatoes. And now you have your esports fans. Those are the guys that are, it's like it's the digital generation. It's the younger generation. And even some of they're older people that are into video gaming and esports too. So I can't, but I'm overall sort of trying, just for the sake of argument and the conversation, it's the separation of these two worlds. Because when you have the sports guys, those are like, the older generations. They're like the sort of like the jocks, the ex-high school players of baseball and hockey, and the guys that are really into like physical sports. And not to say that they don't like video gaming too. I'm sure they do.
Sure.
But I'm just saying is there's an actual, it's like the ability of people who have that ability or had the ability to play sports on a professional level. And then you have those people who are really good at video gaming. And those are the ones that are really passionate about esports. And there is a place for them. But if we separate those two worlds, I think you have a much more successful program.
Ari, remind the audience again where people can register for the Casino Esport Conference, which is being held in Atlantic City at Resorts Casino on November 6th and 7th. And also give out your website for the Gambling, Esports, and Technology Association. How can people get involved in that organization?
So it's very simple. You can fill out a form on the Get a Global site. It's I'll start with that first. That stands for the Gambling, Esports, Technology Association. And so it's GETA Global, all one word, no spaces, no dots, .org. So it's an organization as a whole. It is a for-profit organization. It's not a non-for-profit. And then and you could just go on there, and there's a place to fill it. You could see who's already members there. And there's a place you could fill out forms and sign up. And then, they get a nice shiny little pin like you did. If they become a member, or we have opportunity to represent them as members and help them build their business and get more business from the casino side of things and the gambling side of things. And that's Get a Global. And then, of course, the Casino Esport Conference is really where you can start getting your feet wet, where you can jump in and learn. We've shortened it now. It's just CEClive.com.
All right.
So it's just CEClive.com, and that'll take you straight to the site. There's all kinds of information on there regarding who has been speakers. There's also a link to Get a Global. We just recently put up a blog where we have articles that have been written by people who are trying to merge these two worlds. So we're taking from Geta the people who want to move the casino industry in its direction of being more technically driven, more video gaming driven, more esports driven. And there's a great article on there if you have time to read it. It's called the esports world, video gaming world does not understand iGaming. And so we're coining a new phrase called e-gaming. And so what does that mean? Dave, what we're sitting on is a powder keg of business for the gambling industry, because you have iGaming, you have your brick and mortar, and now you have a whole new division of video gaming industry. It's called e-gaming.
Wow, sounds great. Ari Fox, creator of the Casino Esport Conference and founder of the Gambling, Esports, and Technology Association, thank you so much for joining us. And I want to remind everyone that the conference is being held in Atlantic City at Resorts Casino on November 6th and 7th. Thanks a lot for coming on and talking about the conference and the Gambling, Esports, and Technology Association. You're always doing great things for the esports community, so please come back on and keep us updated about what's happening in the world of esports.
Dave, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be here.
That'll do it for us this week. See you next time on the Turnpike.